This is going to be the first in a new series called Women Corrupted. And the premise of this series is, well, exactly what it sounds like. Women corrupted things. What things? All things. They corrupted everything. Every conceivable thing that human beings do, they corrupted it. Why is everything fucked up? Why is everything ugly? Why is everything in ruins? Why is everything broken and dysfunctional? To say women are the cause of any of these things is not directly accurate. Men hold all the power, and men chose to listen to women. Men chose to take women seriously. So, directly speaking, it's men's fault because men just don't have the balls anymore to tell women to shut up and be in their place. Men have convinced themselves for a few centuries now that loving a woman means letting her get everything she wants. And men are actively looking for new ways to give women even more shit. And the funniest part is, even if it didn't cause all of this dysfunction and misery, women are still not happy with it. They have everything they want, and they're still not happy anyway. So this series is not necessarily me saying, like, women directly did this, because it is men who took women seriously who did this, but this was all done at women's behest, and this series is going to explain why that was so stupid, why it actually did the opposite of what we thought it would do. So for this episode, I'm just going to focus on social bonds, relationships, every type of relationship there is. Here's the thing about women, and this will kind of be the underlying theme throughout this series. As the weaker sex, as creatures that are naturally parasitic unless they are made useful by men at the guidance and the command of men, women will seep into every crack in the system that they are in. Whatever the order is, if they find even the slightest advantage anywhere at any time, they will exploit it, like insects crawling around in the dark. Anywhere they can get even the slightest foothold in power, they will take it. And all we have to do to make sure that they don't ruin anything is to tell them to shut up and go back to their place. But we stopped doing that. We stopped prioritizing that. And so little by little, women have gained more and more power. It's always indirect. It's always, but I'm a victim, so do this for me. It's always, but I'm weaker. That they acknowledge they are weaker. They just hate it when you point that out. But they'll say, I'm weaker, so do this for me. If you love me, you'll do this. And they have found a million different ways to say these things. They are manipulators at all times, every minute of every day, except arguably when they're sleeping. They are in manipulation mode. Manipulation is how they have always survived. And like I said, the way to deal with this is to simply tell them to shut up, to not listen to them, to not take them seriously. But as simple as that is, men for the past at least 200 years have gradually talked themselves into believing that they shouldn't do that. And what better crevices and cracks could women have seeped into to gain more and more power, little by little? What better aspect of life could they have found all these weaknesses, all these crevices and weaknesses in than our very social bonds? All of them. Marriages, friendships, families, even acquaintances. They successfully manipulate one person and it cascades. And despite the fact that women hate each other, they will always have the sisterhood. The sisterhood is what they use for their own individual power, despite the fact that they don't want to share power with each other. They will still use the sisterhood for that purpose. Marriages, friendships, families, even acquaintances are all now feelings-based. And none of those types of relationships should have ever been feelings-based. If you think marriage is about feelings, you don't know what you're talking about. You are ignorant. Family should not be feelings-based. Humans form groups for function. That is why we have always formed groups. That is why we have social bonds in the first place. function. And what is the function for? Survival. Yes, it is still used for that. Yes, women use it for that too. But in their quest to maximize their own power, they have corrupted the reason we do things. They know what they're up to, but clearly no one else knows what they're up to. And that's why everything is broken. We have forgotten the reason we have social bonds in the first place. It's not for feelings. Feelings, and keep this in mind, not just during this video, but in all of my videos. Keep this in mind every day of your life. Feelings should always be secondary. They should never be the primary reason you do anything. But women have gotten us to believe, even men, women have gotten all of us to believe that the reason for any social bond is for the feelings. If you think about it, if you really think about it, feelings are supposed to be a reinforcement. Even the negative ones are supposed to be reinforcements, not a purpose in and of themselves. For example, your own children. Everyone should prioritize, first of all, becoming parents. But when you are a parent, you should have an emotional connection with your children. But that's a reinforcement. Your children should be a priority because they cannot defend themselves. They cannot teach themselves. For a long while after they're born, they can't defend themselves. And having an emotional connection to them reinforces our reason for helping them as they grow up and grow stronger. Feelings reinforce. They are meant to reinforce. Even when something goes wrong, anger is a reinforcement. Some injustice was done. Someone did a wrong thing, at least in our mind, and so we get angry. It reinforces our urge to do something about it. There is a purpose for feelings, don't get me wrong, but the feelings are not the reason in and of themselves. They are not the primary reason. But women want you to think otherwise. Why? Because that's how they're wired. They don't think, they just feel. They have to rely on feelings far more than men because they can't think, because they are not as intelligent. They are more dependent on bonds, on social bonds, for their own survival. And it's all they have going for them. It's the same thing with babies. Why are babies such emotional creatures? It's all they have to go on. They can't defend themselves. They can't problem solve. So what do they depend on? Crying. When something is wrong with them, they cry. Tap into emotions to get what they want. Exploit, manipulate emotions to get what they want, get what they need, because it's all they have. Women and babies, they have this in common. They both exploit and emphasize emotions for this reason. It is because they are inferior that they depend more heavily on feelings, on emotions, to get what they want. But men don't need it. Men at least subconsciously understand that feelings are important, but they should not be the main drive behind anything. Anything. Men can have higher thinking than just feelings. And we should. I don't believe we should be devoid of feelings, but I also believe we should never be primarily driven in any situation by our feelings. But that's what women slowly but surely have rewired men's brains into operating. Feelings are situational. No two human beings like each other every minute of every day for decades straight. Feelings, they go up, they go down. Depends on the moment, depends on the day. And you never really know what it's going to be next. If you are primarily driven by feelings, that is going to get in the way of function, the function of why we form groups. Even if the group is just two, a pair, a marriage, it should not be about feelings. To hell with whether you like someone or not. You should always be asking yourself if the people in your group are reliable. Are they fulfilling their function in the group? Whether it's a family member, a relative, or your child, or your spouse, or even a friend. If you're in a group, everyone should contribute what they can, what they are capable of contributing. Yeah, children can't contribute anything for several years after they're born, but that doesn't last forever. Eventually, in the olden days, for most of human history actually, When boys reached, oh, I don't know, 5 or 7 or something, they could start helping with the farm work. By 13 or so, they could even start participating in wars. So to hell with feelings as a primary reason for anything. Feelings are fickle and they are irrational. To hell with whether or not you see eye to eye on something or on everything with somebody else. To hell with whether or not you and someone else even fully understand each other. Are you doing your part? Are they doing theirs? In all groups, regardless of what the group is for, that should be everyone's primary concern. And guess what? Over time, you will form emotional bonds with those people. That's just inevitable. Just having a history with someone makes you in some way emotionally attached to them. Time alone makes someone part of your essence. When they are a core part of your memories, your life memories, they are therefore a core part of who you are. So don't start with feelings. Feelings will come later if everyone's doing their part. It's a stupid thing to prioritize first and foremost. So you want to know why we're so atomized? Everyone in the West, everyone in our society, why we are so atomized? It's because we started, and who knows when this truly started. Decades ago, possibly even centuries ago, little by little. But it's because all of our relationships are based on feelings now, first and foremost, when that was never the reason, the main reason humans formed groups. Women talked us into this. Women manipulated us into this. If we had just stuck to our guns and continued to tell women to shut the fuck up and get back in their place, this would have never happened. They would have never gotten this far. Women never know what they're doing. They never know what they're doing, but in their stupidity and ignorance, they gradually brainwashed men into believing relationships are about feelings, because feelings are all women understand. And that's why the West, basically every Western nation now, is a matriarchy. Women don't rule directly. They rule from safe distances, enough to wield power, but never be in harm's way. The men are always the one taking the risks. The men are always the ones who take the blame. But we allow women to tell us how to think, which is ultimately telling us how to feel. Everything we do now is for feelings. That is women being in charge. When we think anything needs to be about feelings, anything, that is women ruling. It needs to stop. Well, after a great deal of conceptualizing, my ambition to form an enclave has finally materialized. My enclave has officially taken off. Humans are meant to form groups, and we form groups for survival, function, and security above all other reasons. It's the way it's meant to be anyway. And we understand this in my enclave. Everyone is required to contribute. Everyone is required to be reliable. And we are all more powerful because of it. No one stands alone in our enclave. When any one of us faces a challenge, we face that challenge together, as a unit. We have chosen to de-atomize. Meanwhile, most of the people watching this video are wondering why they're alone and miserable. Well, I keep saying, enclaving is our only option now. If you refuse to do it, you have nothing to complain about. You cannot vote yourself out of the mess we are all in. Enclaving is our only option now, and my enclave has finally begun. So I offer everyone in my audience a place in my enclave. Everyone contributes, and therefore everyone receives all of the benefits of why human beings form groups in the first place. Function, survival, security. But I won't advertise us any more than that, because we are not a business, we are a tribe. So if you want to join my enclave, there's a link in the description below, or I would encourage you to make your own. Regardless of which one you choose, it's the wise decision for your future.